Okay, welcome Integrated 3 students. This is Mrs. Holder. We're going to do our first ed puzzle together, reviewing order of operations. Hopefully you have your notes set up like this in our Cornell note style. The date goes up here, title of the ed puzzle goes here. You do not need to copy down all of these ideas I have for you here, but you will be putting 6 comments and questions in this margin that you guys wrote. But don't worry about writing down all of these points. These are just ideas for you to, of things that you can be putting in the margins, okay? So let's get started. We're gonna make this a quick video since it's all review for most of you. Let's start with a nice definition. So if we're talking about order of operations, we should know what that means, correct? So order of operations are a set of math rules that tell you which math operations to do first. Let me finish that off for you. They tell you which math operations to do first. Exclamation mark, because we're excited about it. I know I'm left-handed and I'm gonna block everything that you're trying to read until I move my hand. I know it's gonna be frustrating, but I can't fix it. Just born that way. So when we talk about math operations, guys, we're talking about just your simple adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, those kinds of things. Okay? So you might be thinking, why do we need to do math in a particular order? Why does it matter? Well, let's see. We're gonna pick one equation and we're gonna have 2 students solve it in a different way and see if they get the same answer. So student A is gonna take the equation 2 plus 5 times 4. Student B is gonna solve the same problem, but they're gonna do it in a different order. Student A decided that he's just gonna go left to right like you're reading a book. 2 plus 5. And then he's gonna multiply it by 4. So 2 plus 5, he simplified and got 7. He's now left with 7 times 4. 7 times 4 equals 28. All his calculations are correct. Looks good so far. Student B decides that they're gonna do the multiplication first and then add 2 to it at the end. So 5 times 4, and the student gets 20. And then decides to add 2 to it. 2 plus 20 simplifies to 22. So 2 students who solve the same equation 2 different ways. All the calculations are correct, but they got 2 very different answers. So which one's correct? Go ahead and solve the ed puzzle right now and tell me, do you think student A is correct? Student B? Are they both correct? Or are neither one of them correct? Okay, so now that you've solved that, we're gonna come back and we're gonna look at what these rules for order of operations are. So basically, the whole math world decided that there are certain functions that you need to do first. Certain operations are more important than others. So we've all agreed upon this so that we can all get the same answer when we're solving these problems. Math is complicated enough. We can only have one right answer in these equations. So basically, there are 4 rules. And it tells you that parentheses in an equation will be the first operation that you do. So the rule is if you see parentheses, whatever's inside of the parentheses you're going to do first. So I'm gonna put a big fat first right here. Now let's go right here. First. Let's talk about what parentheses are. Parentheses are, and I think you guys all know this already, but we're just going over a review. It's basically a group. Okay, it's these 2 little curvy lines, and whatever inside here is a group. There's also another kind of parentheses called brackets, and they look different, the name is different, but they do the exact same thing. They're just like straight lined parentheses. Okay, so we got curvy lines, we got brackets. They're always in pairs, and whatever's inside of that is a group that you're going to solve first. So let's use this example, EX. We're gonna use the example 10 times 4 plus 5, and we're gonna solve that. Since we have a parentheses, our order of operation tells us this we need to solve first. So 4 plus 5, those are 2 like terms. They're both numbers, so we can simplify 4 plus 5. So that's our first priority. 4 plus 5 equals 9. Now, I wrote the parentheses, but since we only have one number left in there, it's basically not a group anymore. So we can take the parentheses out, but it doesn't hurt to leave them. And then we'll get 10 times 9, which equals 90. Now, had we done 10 times 4 first and gone in a different direction, we would have gotten a completely different answer. Okay? So that's how we deal with parentheses. Anytime you see them, that is your first priority. Do whatever is inside the parentheses. All right, moving on. We're going to talk about exponents. Exponents is the next step after you've done your parentheses. So if you see exponents in your equation, all that really means is that you're doing repeated multiplication. Now I know this is a difficult concept sometimes, but exponents are just a really shorthand way of writing that you're going to multiply the same number over and over again. So let's use 4 to the second power, or 4 squared. That little number has to be small and it has to be up above, and it either means power or it's an exponent. When it's a 2, we often say it's squared. When it's a 3, we often say it's cubed. But just for the example, 4 squared, or 4 to the second power, is the same as saying 4, not 4 times 2, but 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 equals 16. If I had 3 to the fourth, that's not 3 times 4, that's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, see if I can do this off the top of my head, times 3 again is 81. Now that's a lot different than saying 3 times 4, which would be 12. So anytime you see an exponent, you're telling the math world that you are multiplying this number that many times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if we see an example, you might see something like 4 times 3 squared, or to the second power. Now we have a multiplication sign, but we also have exponents. So we have to decide which one we're going to do first. Our rules, our order of operation tells us we don't have parentheses, but we do have exponents, so we need to take care of the exponents first. So 3 squared is the same as saying 3 times 3, those are funky looking 3s, which is 9. So we have 4, and then times 3 times 3. So 4 times 9, ran out of space, that's okay, is going to give us 36. Okay? Can you see how it would give us a different answer if we did 4 times 3 first? 4 times 3 would give us 12. And if we did 12 squared, 12 times 12 would give us 144, which is absolutely not the same as 36. Okay? After you've taken care of everything in the parentheses and you've done the exponents, next you have multiplication and division. And I say and because they're equally important. Okay? So first, next, then you take care of the multiplication. And I'm not going to explain to you what multiplication and division is because I know you know that. Multiplication and division. The multiplication sometimes can look like 4 next to a parentheses. So if it said 2 plus 5, you would take care of the parentheses and then multiply it by the 4. You're saying that we have 4 groups of 2 plus 5. So when you're taking care of parentheses and multiplying, sometimes it doesn't just give you an X or an X as your multiplication sign. Sometimes it'll look like a little dot like that, and sometimes it's just next to the parentheses, okay? So it looks a couple different ways. And division, sometimes it looks like a fraction, and sometimes it just looks like a division sign, okay? So in our example for this one, we're gonna go back to those first students, okay? And I'm wondering right now if you guys can even see my paper. Oh, it's getting close. Okay, so I'm gonna move this up a little bit. And, okay. All right, so we are going to talk about multiplication and division, but using that example the first 2 students used. So we have 2 plus 5 times 4. Now that we know the order of operations, we know that multiplication and division are going to come before addition and subtraction. So in this equation, I need to, just like student B, I need to do the multiplication part first. 5 times 4 gives me 20, and then we're going to add 2. 2 plus 20 equals 22. And the same thing goes with division and subtraction. If we had an equation, 12 minus 10 divided by 5. If I do the subtraction first before the division, I would get 12 minus 10 equals 2. 2 divided by 5 would give me 2/5, 0.4. But let's see what happens when we do it in the correct order. So we have to take care of the division before we can take care of the subtraction. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. And then I'm going to bring down the 12 minus 10 divided by 5, or negative 10 divided by 5, however you'd like to read it. That leaves us with 12 minus 2, which gives us 10. Totally different answer. Okay? Why don't you try some on your own? All right, welcome back. We're on page 2 now. If you write big like I do, you might need 2 pages by now. If you write really teeny tiny, you might be able to fit it all on 1 page. So I'm gonna continue on. We're gonna look at some unique cases, okay? Let's look at parentheses. In this equation, we need to take care of the parentheses first, just like our order of operation tells us. So we do what's inside the parentheses first. We're gonna simplify this group. So 4 plus 5 gives us 9. 10 times 9 would give us 90. I think that's the same example we used on the front page. But sometimes we can't combine what's inside the group. These are like terms, so we're able to combine them. But let's look at letter C. These are kind of connected. We're going to talk about distributing. Distributing means that sometimes you have to take the number that's outside the parentheses and you have to multiply it 1 by 1 to the numbers on the inside of the parentheses, because these can't be combined first. Okay, so let's use our order of operations. If we have 10 plus 4 times the quantity x plus 5, so the quantity means just everything inside the parentheses, it tells me that I would combine and add x plus 5 inside the parentheses first. But I can't combine x plus 5. We have a variable and we have a number. So I have to leave that like x plus 5. So my next step would be to do exponents, which we don't have. My step after that would be to do multiplication and division. So like we said, the number 4 outside of the parentheses tells us that we're multiplying 4 times x and 4 times positive 5. And so we're going to distribute this 4 to the x, and we're going to distribute this 4 to the 5. So I like to make little arrows like this. I call it double rainbows. And so I'm going to bring this 10 down because we are not going to do the addition part yet, but I'm going to multiply 4 times x. And any number times any variable is going to give you just those put together. So we're going to have 4x. It's like saying we have 4 x's. And then we're going to multiply 4 times the second number inside the parentheses. Positive 4 times positive 5 would give us positive 20. And now I still can't combine 4x and 20, but I have addition and addition here, and so I can combine any like terms I have in my expression. So I have 10 and I have 20. And so I can combine those to get 30. And then I'm going to bring down my last term, 30 plus 4x. And since I can't combine those, guys, that's as far as I can simplify. There is nowhere to go from there. Okay, we're going to do the same thing with exponents. Now, I couldn't find the exponents button on my printer, so I knew that when I came to this, I was just going to write it in. And same thing down here. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward, right? We have exponents. We know that we need to do our exponents first because there are no parentheses. And then we will do the multiplication times 4 next. So 3 squared, that's not 3 times 2, 3 squared is the same as saying 3 times 3. So that's the part I'm going to simplify first. 3 times 3 equals 9. 9 times 4, now I get to go into multiplication, gives me 36. Okay, but what happens if your exponents come in the parentheses? Are we still doing it the correct way? Well, here's how it works. You see the parentheses. What that tells you is do what's inside the parentheses first. Okay, so actually by doing the exponents, we are taking care of the parentheses first. Okay, so we have 3 squared times 4. So 3 squared, just like we solved up here, is going to give us 9 times 4. Now, I still have 2 terms inside the parentheses, so I still need to bring my parentheses down. Plus 6. I still have parentheses, so I need to take care of what's inside our group. 9 times 4 gives me 36. And then I'm going to add 6. Now we can simplify one final time to get our solution. 36 plus 6 gives us 42. And now you have some equations on your Ed puzzle to solve before we can finish up. Okay guys, we're on our last section and we're going to talk about the problem with PEMDAS. Now PEMDAS is the word that has been made to help you remember parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. That's what I was taught when I was young. Some of you guys might have been taught, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, as a way of remembering the order of operations. But what's the problem with this? This gives us 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 levels of importance. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. But our notes tell us that there's only 4 steps. That parentheses is first, exponents are second, multiplication and division are third together. This is what you do after parentheses and exponents. And addition and subtraction are also equally important. So can you guys tell me what happens if you have multiplication and division in the same equation? Or if you have an equation that has addition and subtraction, which one do you do first? And it does matter most of the time. Sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it's going to make a difference in your answer. So we need to note that multiplication and division are, this is like being a parent and saying that you love your kids equally, which is true. Multiplication and division are equally important with a big fat exclamation mark. There's not one that is more important than the other. Same thing with addition and subtraction. They are equally important. Hoping you guys can write this or see this and that I am on camera still. I think I am. So let's look at a few examples. We have the equation 40 divided by 4 times 5. We have 2 completely equal expressions, multiplication and division. There is not one more that's important than the other. I love them both equally, just like my kids, okay? So which one do we do first? Well, this is where we have a slight addition to our rules. Multiplication and division are equally important. So when you have both of them, you do them in left to right order. Which means, just like you would read a book, you read a book left to right, you solve math equations left to right when they're equally important. So we're going to do the division first, and then we're going to do the multiplication next. So 40 divided by 4 gives us 10. Ten times 5 gives us 50. That's the correct solution. But we could have an incorrect solution if we didn't follow this. If I decided multiplication was more important than division, just like PEMDAS kind of leads us to believe, I'm going to show you what that would give us. So don't do it this way. Make sure you write this in your notes. Don't do it this way. So we have 40 divided by 4 times 5. If I chose to do the multiplication first because it comes first, like in PEMDAS, I would do 4 times 5 first, which would give me 20. And then 40 divided by 20 equals 2. Completely different, right? If somebody owed you $50, wouldn't you be a little upset if they gave you $2 instead? Not even close to the same. We're gonna do the same thing for addition and subtraction. So let's use the equation 4 minus 2 plus 3. We're almost done. Since we're moving left to right because subtraction and addition are equally important, we're gonna do this equation first since we're going from left to right. So 4 minus 2 gives us 2. And after we've simplified this expression here, we're gonna then add 3. It's 2 plus 3 equals 5. Okay, and then we're gonna, just like on this example, we're gonna see what happens if we did addition first, because addition in PEMDAS comes before subtraction. And again, don't do it this way, this is wrong. But if we did 4 minus 2, hope you guys can see this, I'm gonna scooch over a little bit, plus 3. If I did the addition first, 2 plus 3 equals 5. And 4 minus 5, there's actually more negative numbers than positive, would give me -1, which as you can see is not 5. So our rule that we talked about here, our left to right order, we're gonna put this here. So when you have multiplication and division in the same expression, or addition and subtraction, just like we have here, you work the equation from left to right. You work the equation from left to right. All right? All right, guys, you have one more ed puzzle to finish up on. I'm so proud of you guys. Hope you guys took great notes, asked great questions. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Have a great day, and I will see you in class.